steering wheel. Lapse the steering wheel, yeah. Give him steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to him. Come on! Whoa!
Your leg, my please. Your leg.
How the f*** is this possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph. Did you hear me? From the radio. Ralph, acknowledge. Now, come on, close him down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track. Down that mistake.
I am so annoyed.
Boys and girls, your attention, please.
Hello and welcome back inside the Park from AA for podcast number 990. We are dangerously close to 1,000 episodes. There's only 10 left, and I have no idea what we're going to do for the 1,000. No idea. I don't know. Hey, this is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
A.K.A. Negative Camber. You know why I've asked you here.
Convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
I mean, why wouldn't you? We are harmless, for crying out loud. Hey, tonight, what are we going to cover tonight? Well, there's a lot. Antonelli making history, Ferrari's upgrade disaster, MBS Eddie Everywhere drops a V8 bombshell. We'll talk about that. Going to talk about this big, important May 8th FIA meeting and, other things that evolve around that. So we'll get into that. Before getting into that, got to introduce my co-host, and you know what that means. I got to go all the way to the right coast of our nation, nestled near our nation's capital, but not in it, thankfully. You know her, you love her, the lovely, the redoubtable
Grace!
Miss Grace, my dear friend, how are you?
I'm good. Washington's a nice place to live. Don't you don't need to slander that.
No, it's a toddling town. I've been there a few times. You and I hung out, ate some great German food. We did that. It's
good time.
It's happening. It's hip. It's with it. Yeah. Oh boy. Well, Grace, there is some Formula One news to talk about this week.
Yeah.
now that we're back to a racing.
Yeah.
And we got the Canadian Grand Prix coming up this weekend.
Always a good one.
It'll be a ton of... It is a different category, Lance.
It's always just when, somebody crashes on the back part of the track, like when Sergio Perez did, and he's, walking through the woods. Where are you?
Yeah, right.
I always like when they crash there. I don't like it that they crash there, but when something happens and they have to, they're just sitting there waiting because that part of the track is so far away from the rest of it.
Yeah.
And they're just like, I'm just here by the river having a moment. How's it going? By the seaway.
Out there with all the flora and fauna. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we got that coming up, but let's jump into some news. I thought we'd start right off the top. I forgot to turn the page. Sorry. I thought we'd start right off the top. Segment number 1, Antonelli wins again in Miami, and the championship picture sharpens. The plot thinnens.
We still have 40 races to go, people. It doesn't thin yet.
Well, 38. We canceled 2, right?
Oh, yeah, you're right. My apologies. 38 races to go yet.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, we got a long ways to go, folks, before we get to the end of this. But anyway, hey, look, what is confirmed? Well, Kimi Antonelli won the Miami Grand Prix. 3rd consecutive victory of the 2026 season after China and Japan. First driver in Formula One history to convert his first 3 Grand Prix pole positions into his wins. First one to do that, but he did join Senna and Schumacher as the only drivers to claim their first 3 poles in a row, which is rare company up there. He now leads the Driver Championship. He got 100 points. Russell's 20 or so behind him at 80. Leclerc's 60, 59-ish in that range. So he's got a decent lead on the Drivers' Championship. It finished 4th. Russell did finish 4th at Miami, 43 seconds adrift of his teammate. His 4 consecutive qualifying defeats to Antonelli are now, per Italian media, I might add, starting to weigh heavily on the team's internal narrative, I would imagine. And, of course, the Italian media would say that, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying.
I'm just pointing it out there.
I'm just putting it out there. You draw the line wherever you want to. And you got, Peter Bonington. You got Bono, who guided Lewis Hamilton through 6 world championships. He's Antonelli's race engineer, as we all know. He was doing a lot of coaching with Kimi, and that's always good. And who better to coach than Bono, right? He's fantastic. Right.
That's right. They got
So
good-
I thought, okay, so here we are, the one-off win. Hey, great for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Play golf a plus for Kimi. Great job. That's great. Then the second win, you thought, wow, that was pretty good.
That was something, yeah.
Yeah, then the third win and 3 poles, and wait a minute. This kid's for real. And you're starting to think, what the hell? What's going on? And, the win in Miami, arguably one of his more impressive performances, yet precisely because it happened without the faster car, right? McLaren, Mercedes kind of admitted that they were behind McLaren's upgrade level at this race for sure, because Mercedes hadn't brought a bunch of upgrades. Winning despite that is a different kind of statement, although I would caution that and say that, that could be track specific too. Difficult to know. We'll see more in Canada. And then I feel like there is this Bono factor, right?
Okay.
You and I have talked about this in the past, and it was
Sure.
probably regarding Bono and Lewis, and we've talked about it in the past with other team bosses, Jonathan Wheatley or whoever it might be. But I think the Bono factor is a genuine competitive advantage for Kimi at this point. The institutional knowledge of a championship-winning race engineer in a new regulation era, I might add, is a real performance multiplier to me. And I feel like Kimi is delivering on that. He's executing on the coaching and direction that Bono's giving. I mean, Bono knows how to protect a driver's mental state. Obviously, Lewis had his ups and downs, and Bono had to navigate that, and he did it wonderfully. He knows how to manage the tire windows under pressure, how to make real-time calls in very ambiguous situations. And it kind of led me to think that George is not really racing just Antonelli. I mean, he's racing a partnership at this point that won titles with Hamilton, right? And I thought that's kind of impressive, and you can kind of see what George is up against. And it also, I was thinking contextually, is it maybe a story about Mercedes' succession planning materializing maybe faster than expected, right? They tossed Antonelli into the deep end of F1. They brought Bono over after Hamilton's departure. They built a team around a teenager. Toto did. And now the fruit of that investment is starting to show up. And for a skeptic check, the assumption to attack might be that Antonelli's already the de facto number one driver at Mercedes. And maybe you could be forgiven for thinking that now. But as Grace said, we've got a lot of races left. 4 races is not a season. Russell won Australia from pole and beat Kimi convincingly in 25. He just had poorly timed safety car in Japan, a mechanical issue in China qualifying, and a circuit in Miami that he himself just doesn't like. It doesn't flatter his driving style. Mercedes are bringing significant upgrades to Canada, which is a track that George historically has dominated at. So the competitive context changes, but can the narrative really change with it? And so with that table setting, Grace, is this the moment we look back on as the race that confirmed Antonelli is a generational talent, or is it still too early to write that chapter?
It's both.
Okay. Say some more.
Oh, well, what, you want a show now? Come on. I mean, I think, yes. I think we knew that coming in, right? I think we all knew, much like Max Verstappen, we knew that Kimi Antonelli was the real deal, and I don't think that anybody's too markedly surprised by that. And he is at Mercedes, so I think that's, again, not completely surprising. But, I think maybe it's not so much that it's too early to write the chapter, but it's too early to write George or anyone else out of the chapter, right? I think that to say, yeah, he's the real deal, that's fine. If that's your intro, right, to this chapter, then that's fine. I just don't think I'm ready to say, and he's going to win the championship at Abu Dhabi, right? So I guess that's why I say it's both, right? I still think we have plenty of races that, and despite Ferrari's own Ferrari-ness, which we'll get to, They do. Leclerc and Hamilton have done very well. Again, it's like, boy, Fernando Alonso would kill for that kind of a bad start to the season, right? So
yeah, right.
They're doing well as well, and as is McLaren. And so I just think that I'm not ready to just declare that's it. It's the year of Kimi Antonelli, and he's going to win the WDC, and we can all just go home now. But I do think he's the real deal, and I think that you see that in him, and I think that there's been plenty of evidence of that coming into this season. So I'm going to go with both.
Yeah, it's a great answer, and I think you're spot on. I mean, I think he is a generational talent. He's an exceptionally talented young man, and at 19, be able to handle the mental pressure, the driving pressure, the rigorous schedule.
It's all the way he carries himself, right? Like he never gets to, like we all give Oscar Piastri such a we all like to poke fun at the fact that he has no emotion, but he actually does, but it's very flat. And so Kimi's the same way, right? Like he's excited that he won, but he's never like. Like you or I would be like, wow, that's right. I got some flair for you, right? Like I'd be, super celebrating. And he's sort of like, yeah, we did great. Okay, what are we doing tomorrow, right? And that's what you really want, especially at this part in the season. So I think that, he is the whole package.
Yeah, he for sure is, but I'm cautious of writing this generational chapter and guessing on how many titles he's going to win. They did that with Lewis when he came in 2007, and I was like, could we just start and see if he can win one championship? As it turns out, he won multiple. Of course, he's an exceptional talent, no doubt about it. But I always felt like we were putting the cart before the horse on that by they're going, he's gonna win 10 championships. He's gonna be and it's kind of like, okay, but let's not put all that pressure on him. Let's just get one under the belt and we'll go from there.
Listen, no fun police, right? Like people have to make money. Right?
And headlines, yes.
Right, you're well, maybe he'll win one, maybe he won't. That nobody's buying the paper with that, buddy. So I think, right, of course, nobody actually is like, well, this is it, he's the next Michael Schumacher, right? Like, okay, that's over the top, but people got to sell papers. So I think anybody really realizes that, yes, will he win a World Drivers' Championship? Yes. I'd be very surprised if in the length of his career he didn't win one. But winning more than one, more than one, less than 5 is huge in Formula One, and there are a lot of great talents that never win any. So, let alone winning races. So
I'm all in, Grace. I'm going to go on record. He's going to win more than Schumacher. There you go. I'm all in. Just that's going to sell headlines. That's clickbait.
That's right. Click away, people.
Yeah. So the other question, is does the Bono pairing give Antonelli an institutional advantage that Russell simply cannot replicate through pace alone?
I wonder how much of it is that we know who Bono is, right? So I even know who George's engineer is?
I do. Name escapes me.
Okay. Is it Lansby, Simon Lansby?
Is it Jake Humphrey?
Freeze.
And that podcast that I can never remember. So
maybe it is. Some of it is that we know Bono's name, but what I think would be true for both engineers. So often in basketball we talk about how getting a veteran on there, even if they're past their prime, bring a lot to a team because they've won. They've gone to championships. They've been in playoffs. So they're able to say to your team of young guys that have never had that experience, like don't overexhaust yourself. This is, 7 games, and we have to play 7 more, and then we're going to have to, space it. So some of that, I think that's the experience you're talking to, is that Bono is able to say, okay, you're right, but we still have 38 more races to go. Don't get too excited, or keeping your focus, right? I think that's something with Jorge Martin, whenever he's in MotoGP, when he's leading, they're always it's easy to get distracted and you fall off the bike, right? Just because you're out there by yourself lap after lap and it's boring and you lose focus. So I think that it helps to have somebody like that has that expertise, but I don't know why George's, engineer wouldn't have that same experience just because Bono worked with Lewis.
It's Marcus Dudley. Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'll add him to the list.
He's good
Marcus
too.
Dudley.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. You're going to add him to the words of wisdom?
Be the water. Let's add that to the words of wisdom.
There you go.
I'm going to add it to the list of people's names that we can't ever remember when we need it. So But so I think there is something to it, but I think it's more the team, and that having a team that knows how to succeed and being successful more than just being that Peter Bonington is the reason why.
Right. So if Wolff has to choose between two drivers fighting for the championship inside the same garage, when do you think that could become a story? Earlier in this season, or do you think that kind of tracks out like McLaren, kind of late summer-ish?
I think that. I think unless, because part of what made Rosberg and Hamilton was Rosberg and Hamilton. Russell and Antonelli are not Rosberg and Hamilton, right? So or Lorenzo and Rossi, right? Like they don't interpersonally have a tension that we know of, that we see publicly, that's going to cause that kind of friction of a Rosberg Hamilton. So then, yes, it'll be silver era rules, and they won't happen until like Vegas, right? Like we won't be talking about this for a while, because they're going to keep playing we have both teams and or both drivers, and we're just one team, and we're not going to stand behind somebody. We're not Ferrari, get that dig in where you can. We're going to try to just run the season with two top drivers, and wherever the chips fall, they fall. And then everybody will are kvetch, just like they did with McLaren, that like, you have to get behind somebody because you're losing all these points. I guess that's true, but you're keeping your team cohesion, which is also important.
I do think, though, Canada is important for George.
Oh, I agree 100%. If he doesn't do well in Canada,
this
narrative may go somewhere. That chapter may just go somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That story all of a sudden starts writing a different
because you can say,
outcome.
I hate Miami. I hate Miami. I hate Miami. I hate Miami. Well, you love Canada.
You love Canada. Yeah, and Mercedes is bringing significant upgrades. I
agree with you. I think it's going to be much like, again, I'm all MotoGP this morning, but in the beginning of the show, but I think that, that was always the way when Marc Marquez would come back. Well, let's see how he does in Austin. Oh, let's see how he does at Sachsenring. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, there's just these tracks that somebody's really good at, and so you're just like, okay, don't get too excited. Let's wait for Canada. Well, if Canada doesn't go George's way, we're gonna start panicking, right? Like, So I agree.
There'll be pressure if Kimi comes out ahead of George in Canada. That's going to be an issue.
Oh yeah,
for everyone involved, for Toto, for George. He's
gonna have to do that.
It's going to be an issue. That's for
Where
sure.
are we after Canada? Do we go to Spain? Are we in Spain next?
Let's see. We go back to Europa. It is that's Canada, and then we go back to Monaco.
Oh, yeah, because it's Memorial Day. Yeah, Monaco, and then Catalunya.
We go to Monaco, and there's going to be lots of
controversy
That's
there.
right. Okay, so, all right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, sorry to test everybody. So you're right. So Canada really, I think it will, because Monaco is always sort of and then we'll see. So, George,
we will
pressure's
see.
on, man. You don't have the convenient, I don't like the track narrative.
Yeah, looking at you, Jorge. It's time to put up or shut up.
That's right.
All right, let's move on. We'll look at other things. Excuse me. Yeah, bless you.
Thank you. Love when that happens on the show.
I'm coughing and clearing throat. You're sneezing.
We're great.
It's one of those things.
I blame the pollen. I don't know.
Yeah,
okay.
So, segment 2, Ferrari's upgrade bust and the development correlation problem, which was posited by one Karun snap oversteer Chandok. Bless you. Goodness gracious me. So, what's confirmed? Well, Ferrari brought several new components to the car in Miami.
They brought a lot.
More than any other team, including new floor diffuser, revised front suspension, reintroduction of their Macarena wing, so-called, and to improve drag reduction. Leclerc qualified third, led the race in the early stages, but faded, spun on the penultimate lap, battling Piastri for a potential podium, brushed the wall, and then given a 20-second penalty for repeatedly cutting the chicane and gaining an advantage. He was classified down in 8th, and Hamilton fared no better. He qualified and finished 7th, hampered all race by aerodynamic damage sustained in his first lap by one Franco Colapinto. Meanwhile, McLaren's upgrade package made a clear impact. They took the sprint pole and win with Norris, scored a double podium in the Grand Prix, collected 48 points across the weekend, their best hole of the season so far. Leclerc said after the race that the rivals had outdeveloped Ferrari, not that the upgrades failed to work as designed. I thought, okay. But Fred Vasseur said that the parts delivered what the simulations predicted.
Oh, that's great. That is a great sentence.
Yeah. So the gap between those two statements is the story.
That's great. Fred, you're such a professional. I love that.
Yeah. That's the story.
Yeah, that's like I write questions for surveys. All questions measure something, but is it measuring what you intended to do, right? Like that's so you always get information back from people, right? This is why I'm always all over the F1 surveys, right? Like you'll get feedback, but is it really telling you what you were intending to find out? Well, that's a different question. And so that's why I love that. Well, the questions delivered what we intended them to measure. Did they? Well, that's what you set them up to be. That's a great statement.
Yeah.
The simulation said that would do this. Okay.
And if any of you missed those podcasts from years ago, whenever F1 or Autosport would do, or Motorsport would do these F1 surveys, those were fun podcasts because being a co-host with someone who is a survey methodologist and scientist like Grace is, who understands that's like completely in her wheelhouse. Yeah. So it was so much fun picking those surveys apart to oblivion and how bad they were. So I appreciated that.
But you know what? It matched what the simulation predicted, so it's good.
Yeah, there you go. You were like the Fred Vasseur of the F1 surveys.
Right.
It was great. It was great.
Measured something.
So over at Sky Sports, many of you might know, and many of you may be big fans of one Karun Snap Oversteer Chandhawk. Yeah. He issued a grim assessment suggesting Ferrari may be entering what he called a negative development loop where correlation issues are obscuring whether upgrades are actually working. And that is a really, really bad spot to be.
Yeah, that would be a terrible place to be.
Yeah, it's very bad. So the context behind that is the business problem here is not that Ferrari had a bad race. Of course, they didn't have a great race. It's that they spent a big upgrade token to effectively, folks, stand still relative to their own rivals, right? And that's kind of that's a real bummer. Or so it would seem anyway in Miami. Could it be track specific? Maybe. I don't know. We'll see in Canada. McLaren, who deliberately spread their upgrades between Miami and Canada, looks to be running a more disciplined development program right now. But that's just what it looks like on the outside looking in. A negative correlation loop is really kind of one of the more damaging sort of things that can happen to an F1 team mid-season. If the wind tunnel or simulator is not accurately predicting track behavior, you can't really trust your development direction then, or it starts making you second guess everything. Every upgrade becomes kind of more of a gamble. You're rolling the dice a little bit if the correlation data isn't really something you can hang your hat on. You could bring 11 parts and go backwards over a weekend, and we've seen that with I think even Red Bull. That might have been last year and maybe earlier this year. So that happens, and it's not a fun spot to be in. Ferrari's strategy department also is under a lot of scrutiny. Leclerc lost a likely podium through a combination of a late error under pressure and then the post-race penalty that suggests that the team didn't really communicate to him that it was like, okay, Charles, you got track limit things. You can't just be driving over every single curve, and there wasn't, I don't know if there was communication there or not, but that's kind of a bad deal. So the assumption out of this to attack is that Ferrari's upgrade program is fundamentally broken and their 2026 championship challenge is effectively over. I would counterpoint that by saying that they're still second in the Constructors' Championship. 4 races of data is not, in new regulation cycles, not enough to declare anyone's development program broken or over or anything else. Vasseur's claim that the upgrades worked as expected could actually be technically true while still meaning the simulation target was set against an incorrect performance baseline, or maybe there was some, fuzzy math there. It's hard to know with any certainty, but it is a fixable problem. It takes some time, But teams have corrected that correlation issue mid-season before, and I think back. I remember McLaren, was having some correlation. I remember, was it Mercedes with the zero side pod and the porpoising, and there was some correlation issues
bad all around.
Yeah, and there was the team. Somebody listen will correct me or throw the name in. There was a team that was. Gosh, I should remember this. It's hell getting old, guys. There was a team whose wind tunnel was off, and it was feeding all this data, and so the correlation was always wrong. And then they finally figured out that, was it Ferrari? I don't remember. It may have been, but the correlation data was wrong because the wind tunnel was off, right? So that's a problem. So, Grace, being that you're a not so avid fan of Ferrari,
yeah.
At what point does bringing the most upgrades while getting the worst result become a governance story rather than a technical one? And is that what added to Matthias Binotto's departure?
Oh, well, Ferrari's not very good at standing behind people. Fred Vasseur, I think that we're all surprised that he's still there, right? They're real quick to fire their coaches. So, which I also don't think helps, right? Which is the same point I made up with Binotto. Like, you have to, nobody wants to work in that environment where you what we all want is to work in an environment where somebody puts out an idea and we go, okay, let's try that. And whether it succeeds or it fails, we all agreed to try it. And so therefore, if it failed, we go, okay, well, it didn't work, but we all wanted to do it. So let's put some more ideas out there. That's what keeps creative ideas flowing and doesn't stymie people from saying something because they don't want to get busted, right? Ferrari, that is not how I've ever gotten the sense that they run. That you put in an idea and it's a bad idea and they're like, great, you put out a bad idea. Shame on you and we're never going to listen to you again. It just doesn't to me ever seem like from the outside looking in this environment, the supportive environment. And that I think Binotto tried to bring some of that and it just really didn't fly at all at Ferrari. But, I think we can see what happens in Canada. I think that even a bad Ferrari at Miami, still not too shabby, right? So still Fernando Alonso would love to be there. So I think that's good. But I think that, I hope that's not the case. As much as I don't like Ferrari, I just don't want that to be what's happened is that they got one bad gremlin in there. Now it's just going to continue to keep rearing its head, right?
I know. Excuse me. To your point, though, I was just looking up because I couldn't remember his last name. It was Marco, but I couldn't remember his last name. And I met him in Austin.
Sotheby.
Mattiacci, Marco Mattiacci.
Yeah.
So you go back to 2007, Jean Todt era, right? Yes. 1993 to 2007. Jean Todt is the team principal. Since then, 2007, you had Stefano Domenicali, Marco Mattiacci, Maurizio Arrivabene, right? Yes. Mattia Binotto, and now Fred Vasseur.
Yeah.
That's how many team bosses Ferrari's been through since 2007. So when Grace says they don't have a problem churning through team bosses, she's serious.
Which I think, but I think that has to be hard, right? Because nobody takes that job lightly, and it's the coach, right? It's the coach in stick and ball sports. That's always the person that gets fired first. So, but I think that's a very upsetting place to have your team exist in, But, Fred, maybe it's just Fred's, his personality just kind of suits this sort of I hear you. I'll see you tomorrow, right?
Yeah, right.
It seems to be working for him.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So, is Leclerc's comment that rivals outdeveloped Ferrari a reflection of genuine concern from inside the car, or is it a driver trying to manage expectations publicly? Grace, and we've seen this for decades, there's only so much a driver will take of frustration until they just take it out into the streets, into the wild, into the press, and sort of start airing out comments like that show their frustration. And it's their way of putting a little pressure. Now, Red Bull was infamous for Helmut Marko. Helmut.
Goodbye, good luck, and good
riddance.
Right, that's Helmet. So you know him, he would work that in reverse and go to the public to put pressure on his drivers, right? And so that happens. Totally happens. Do you think that's his comment? Just, put a little pressure on the team, get their crap together?
I think it's narrative management, right? I think that's.
Yeah.
I see the answer to your question is again both. I think this is both Leclerc saying this car's trash and I'm tired of driving this trash, and I'm not the reason it's trash. Please hire me at your team.
It's not me. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
he's got to keep his CV up because he and his wife just bought a $15 million yacht.
Yeah, right. He's crying, dabbing
he
away
has
those
3
tears
of
with
them.
some money. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
he's
tough.
like,
Yeah,
Yes.
like Fabio
Yeah,
Quartararo.
it's
It's tough. It's a tough life while you cry all the way to the bank, dabbing at
Right.
those tears up with your money.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that, but so I think it's both because I think you do always have to say hey, I need people to get it together, and especially because now he's becoming victim of the radio, right? Like we don't
Yeah.
listen to all of Leclerc's radio. We only get snippets here. Well, that's such a big driver of narrative management, and so you don't want to be the person that they cut to every time you're like, rah, 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 and they're like, Leclerc is unhappy, right? So you always have to have some bit of narrative management, and that is, it's not my fault. It's not me. I'm perfect.
It's not me.
It's this tub I have to ride in is the problem.
That's the problem. And he's pulling in. He's going,
It's a shit box.
This is Ferrari,
Yeah. Oh, you cannot say that's Ferrari. Oh. So, anyway, great part.
Oh, so I think it's both.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
All right. Segment 3. Now, our dear friend.
Yeah.
You and I.
Friend of the
he
show.
go way back. Friend of the show. Very dear
Tousler
friend
of hair.
the show. Yes. The pourer of water on hair. Yes.
Yeah.
Is the lovely Mohammed bin Salman, the FIA president.
Yes.
Now, everyone around the world just shorts that to MBS. Mm-hmm. And we call him Eddie everywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
And thanks to our Australian listeners for that term. But anyway, so FIA President MBS told reporters in Miami that V8 engines will return to Formula One, targeting a 2030 and committing to 2031 at the latest, regardless of any manufacturer support. Now, he was explicit about the FIA's position. If 4 of the 6 power unit manufacturers vote, or 4, you know what I'm saying, motor manufacturers, they vote to approve V8s for 2030, then they arrive then. If they don't, then the FIA, he says, has unilateral authority under its own regulations to mandate V8s for 2031 without a manufacturer vote. All right. So MBS described the case for V8s as being about sound, less complexity, and notice we're back to sound. If everybody's followed my screed on sound versus noise, you'll know it absolutely ticks me off. He's arguing it's being about sound, less complexity, and lightweight construction. He confirmed that the next generation units would feature only minimal electrification, in sharp contrast to the near 50-50 split we have now in the current formula. He indicated that the FIA is targeting the displacement between 2.6 and 3 liters. Go for 3. And and that road car relevance is part of the rationale, citing that V8 engines are currently being in production at Ferrari, Audi, Mercedes, and Cadillac. So who knew? This announcement happened, just 4 races into the season. And that's 4 race weekends into the 2026 engine formula that took years and billions of dollars to develop and required Audi, Honda, and Ford to build entirely new power units from scratch. So the context behind that is that the V8 announcement, I don't know if that's really an engine story. It's more about governance And the 2026 regulations were the product of years of negotiations between the FIA, teams, manufacturers, Liberty Media. They were presented as the definitive framework for Formula One's next chapter. They were. I mean, they were rammed down our throats. This 50-50, this is going to be awesome, and biofuels, and this will be the regulation standard for years to come, like we did in 2014. It's going to be 4 races in. The president of the governing body is publicly signaling that the framework is temporary and that the FIA will override manufacturer consensus if necessary. That's a significant statement about power and process. And I think you also, Grace, have to consider the Audi problem is real and almost completely absent from most of the coverage you see because Audi hasn't really said anything. Audi joined Formula One specifically because of the 2026 power unit formula, and they were behind that kind of engineering and marketing challenge that justified their investment in Formula One. So it's a very sophisticated combustion electric hybrid thing that appealed to them. It was relevant to them. It seemed that it was relevant to their road car development narrative and engineering. That was the point of entry. If that formula is rendered obsolete by 2031, what is the regulatory rationale for their entire project? Audi hasn't commented on the V8 plan, but I think the silence is worth noting because the whole reason they're there is because of these. And I feel like that's a flight risk in some ways, depending on what and how Audi feels about it to justify the large marketing dollars, right? Only
if this was real. I think this is just Ben Silliam managing his own narrative.
Right, and I do get to that. He said there is a pattern here that the sports business partners should think carefully about. The 2014 Formula One regulations were controversial for sure. The 2026 formula was designed to fix the problems of 2014. Within 4 races, the FIA has already discussed in the 2030 formula. Long-term investment decisions are made on these. Broadcasting deals, sponsorship commitments, and manufacturer programs are all predicated on regulatory stability. The sport is trading that stability for responsiveness, and the market will eventually have to price that trade-off and figure out what they think about it. The skeptic check on this, or the assumption to attack, is that the V8 announcement is a meaningful signal about F1's direction and manufacturers should plan around it. Now, that would be the opportunistic fan who hates these regulations, and they would say, yeah, it's a meaningful signal and everyone ought to get on board and plan around it. The counterpoint to that is that what Grace just said. Now, MBS has a track record of this, but so do previous FIA presidents.
I mean, it's part of the job, right? Yeah, I think that's, you know, you just kind of put it out there and see if the spaghetti sticks. Yeah.
So, they have a history of floating these ideas publicly before consensus exists to even support the idea. He propped up the V10 returns last year. That went nowhere. The 2030 V8 target requires a manufacturer supermajority. Even the 2030 unilateral option would, I have to assume, Grace, face some sort of legal challenge, I would think. Legal and maybe commercial challenge for manufacturers who signed, binding commitments around the 2026 framework. So that will be interesting. This may be a pressure tactic designed to accelerate the 2027 hardware discussions rather than a firm commitment about V8s. I think we just have to watch what the manufacturers actually agree to, not what the FIA president says in the paddock media sessions, and I think that'll be the key. Even when you hear Toto Wolff say things like, V8s, that could be interesting, blah, blah, blah. He kind of played that down. He didn't say, I'm all in on V8s and minimal electric.
He's not going to say either way.
He may be in for V8s, but he's going to be in for still a 50-50 split, strong hybrid component to it, because that's probably what Mercedes wants.
But most people don't go to races, right? I think Formula One is different in that sense. It's most of us consume the sport on TV, It's not like baseball. It's not like basketball. You know, you're not going to games, right? I think that even the most avid fan, unless you live in Austin or Montreal or something like that, in your lifetime, I've only ever seen a handful of races, right? And it's only at a handful of tracks because those are the only ones I will go to, right? So I think this idea of the sound is always such a weird narrative because most of us never hear the sound. Is the sound vastly different? Having now been to multiple races across different rule changes, yeah, absolutely. The first time Flip and I went to Montreal, and I was like, oh, here, don't forget your earplugs. And then I was like, oh, never mind. It's not loud. But you can't tell that on the TV if it's loud, right? It's on TV, which is where most of us consume it. And most people now never experience something like the V8s, right? So it just becomes like this like boogeyman. It becomes safety or patriotism. Well, if we just had the V8, what does that mean, right? Right. So I think it just becomes this boogeyman that we all just like put out there. Like, well, if we just had the V8s again, everything would be great. No, you could have the V8s and it would still suck, right? There's more to it than that. I think that there's just... is there maybe the underlying issue of the manufacturers have too much pull? Yes, but also this is auto racing, and that's always the case. Because if they don't have a lot of pull, then who's racing? It'll just be Charles Leclerc in a literal tub.
Yeah. Because you make a great point. I mean, look at Cross Series in IMSA. My gosh, the amount of money that GM pours in to promote Corvette. Right. You watch a long race like Daytona or Sebring even, all these little featurettes and specials. Yeah. You know, whoa, we went down and, go talk about how brakes work with Corvette. Oh, we're going to go talk about fuel usage with Corvette. Corvette is everywhere. They're just jammed down your throat in IMSA that now it's to the point I absolutely love it when a Porsche beats them because I'm tired of hearing about it. But NASCAR is no different either. The manufacturers, they carry a lot of weight in that series, right? Yeah. And Formula One, like you said, is no different. That's why I'm wondering if it isn't. Max Mosley was famous for doing this. He would always, and if you've read his biography, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's actually a good biography, but he talked about how he got things done with the teams. He would always make a proclamation that would overshoot the mark, knowing that they would all end up compromising somewhere in the middle, which is what he actually wanted. But he would always make a very strong case. And that was to either promote some negotiation or get teams to sign the Concord Agreement, whatever it was. So that's why I'm wondering if MBS isn't taking a page out of Mosley's book in the sense that, using the V8 announcement as a leverage to accelerate the 2027 World Motorsport Council vote that gets these engines back to a 60-40 split could be something that they're using here. He may not genuinely believe that it's achievable on his stated timeline just to simply move back to V8s or not. I don't know. But somehow I find it easier to believe that Max Mosley, I know Max Mosley did that with aplomb. I find it a little more difficult to believe that MBS would put all that together and pull that off. But it could be me. So, Grace, another so.
But he also wants to say, see, I told you.
Yes.
It's the boogeyman part of it, right? It's like, if I tell you something and it's a boogeyman, then you're going to be like, it was made up. It's not a real thing. So then it's easy to be, well, I told you, Todd. I told you if we just did what I said. And you're like, well, what you said was not real. Well, if you just listen to me, right? That's where I see him coming from. It's just all this like, love me. I told you people, and you just refuse to listen to me. That's not really how this works.
You and I have been saying that for years now. We've been saying, bring back refueling. I told you. Yeah, so there you go. So, Grace, what does Audi do with this? They built a power unit for one regulatory purpose. If that purpose is going to be suspended within 5 years, do they stay? Or does this become an exit ramp for them?
I mean, they know how much this is real or not. Once again, what Eddie Everywhere says out loud to us, it should be different than what he says behind closed doors, right? Yeah. So one would hope that he goes, I know, guys, but I have to say these things, right? Like, because otherwise, how do you, if this is for real, which I don't think it is, but if it's for real and this is really how he feels, and he really thinks that by 2030 we're going to be out of electric altogether, then I think Audi is like, well, all those years when we said we were going to join and we didn't, we were right. I'm glad we joined. Great, let's go.
Right.
Screw you guys, I'm going home, right? Like, why do we bother with you people?
Yeah. No, it's true. Watch this space. I think this is a shot across the bow, whether it's to try to force the hand to get them to change, which we're going to talk about next, to change the 2027 regulations and tweak those further, or not, I don't know. Or, the other side, he wanted to bring in 11 teams, said he approved it, FI approved it, they're coming in. Then there was all hell broke loose and it took significant changes, but he ended up getting an 11 team, so you never know. We'll see.
It's not Michael Andretti.
Yeah. I'm not, I think I've been on record. I'm not a huge MBS fan.
I don't know that anybody is. I'm not sure that.
Yeah, but I do like this idea.
Okay.
So I'm for it. Yeah, what are you going to do? All right, let's turn the page.
Okay.
We're going to do segment 4, the FIA May 8th meeting, the 2027 power unit deal, and a record quarter for F1 business. You guys are going to love this story. So what's confirmed? What do we know? Well, we know on May 8th the FIA convened on online. I'm reading my notes here. Sorry, because I can't keep all this in my head, so I type it all down. Apologies for that, but that's just how I roll. They convened an online meeting with all the team principals, Formula One management representatives, and the 5 power unit manufacturers. The meeting opened with a review of the regulation tweaks introduced at Miami, described by the FIA as having delivered improved competition with no material safety concerns. Yay! Stakeholders agreed in principle to further 2026 tweaks, including confirmed adoption of the start safety revisions trialed in Miami and wet weather safety measures still to be finalized. Progress is promised. Critically, the meeting agreed in principle to hardware changes for 2027. Here's where the plot thickens.
Right.
A nominal increase in ICE power of approximately 50 kilowatts alongside a fuel flow increase and a corresponding reduction in ERS deployment energy by approximately 50 kilowatts. So that would shift the power split from the current near 50-50 towards something closer to 60-40 in favor of combustion. Now, you think, hey, all right, now we're getting there. The 27 changes still require World Motorsport Council vote and a separate power unit manufacturer vote before adoption. Technical working groups will refine all the details. Separately, this is in the also story, Liberty Media reported Q1 2026 financial results on May 7th, just ahead of this meeting. Formula One revenue reached $617 million, up 53% from $403 million in Q1 2025. So YOY, for those of you in business or year on year, 53% increase. Primary revenue, covering race promotion fees, media rights, and sponsorship, that was up 55% to $496 million. Adjusted OIBDA, which is for those of you not in business, is operating income before depreciation, more than doubled to $172 million. Liberty cited one additional race in the quarter, new commercial partnerships with Standard Chartered, Marsh, FanDuel, Betway, and extended multi-year agreements with Sky Sports in the UK and Italy, Foxtel in Australia, and BN across Asia. So they were super excited. So why does all of this matter, Grace? Well, the May 8th meeting is the clearest signal yet that the sport is not planning to let 2026 play out unchanged. Agreeing to hardware changes in principle for 2027, less than 2 months into a new era, is, you have to admit, a bit extraordinary. And it tells you something important. The stakeholders are not confident that software and energy management tweaks alone are enough to fix the underlying dynamic that fans aren't happy with. So the 50 kilowatt ICE increase paired with the same ERS reduction is not just sort of a cosmetic thing. It shifts the competitive calculus for every manufacturer and changes the driver experience. The drivers have been explicit that the problem is not just about what they can see on the timing screens. It's about what they can actually feel in the car. A hardware change addresses that in a way that software limits never really can. And I think that's what they're struggling with this year. And then on the money side of that, the revenue number is a bit counterintuitive as a part of this story if you think about it. So you have all these problems. They spent billions and years putting together these regulations. 4 races in, they're already making significant tweaks and talking about making major tweaks in 27. And meanwhile, you got Stefano and all these other people talking about, no, everybody loves it. Everybody loves the racing. And Total Wolff saying anybody that criticizes this race is an idiot. They're all out there peddling the narrative. Then you have this explosive revenue story. You think, well, gosh, if everybody's upset, why are they growing exponentially? So the point on that, if you're newer to F1, the point on that is that it sounds counterintuitive, but while the governing body is holding all these emergency meetings to fix its product, the commercial machine is posting its best quarter in history. It might seem like a contradiction, but it's actually a reflection of the sport's structural configuration, how it's made up and how it earns revenue, or its resilience, you might say. Race promotion fees, locked in. Media rights deals, multi-year deals, locked in. Sponsorship commitments, they don't dissolve because a qualifying lap looked weird, right? That doesn't happen.
Okay.
Those sponsorship deals are longer term than that. The gap between commercial performance and on-track satisfaction of fans is a real story, but F1's contractually locked into these deals, and that recurring revenue gives it resilience to withstand these kind of immediacies of fan grievances, if you will, if that makes sense. We've seen this in the past, too, when in 2014, you had a lot of the old guard outraged by the 2014 power unit hybrid and all that, said, I'm done, and all that stuff. If there was a time to panic, it could have been then, because all those years they listened to V12 scream, V10 scream, V8 scream, and then we go to a flatulent V6. And man, there were really mad people in 2014, really mad. And yet, all those contracts were locked in and they were still making money. So that's kind of how that works. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, they don't care about the fans. I feel like that's what those 12 bullet points just told me.
Yeah, that's it. So the assumption check, 2027 hardware changes agreed in principle will arrive in time to meaningfully improve. 2027 we'll go back to 60-40 split. We'll use biofuels. This will be wonderful. It's great. I guess the counterpoint to that, as I was thinking, was that agreed in principle is not agreed. And the World Motorsport Council vote still needs to happen. The manufacturer's vote still needs to happen. The technical working group has to refine all these details. So there's a lot of space in the margins here, folks. The power unit manufacturers have long lead times for physical hardware changes. A 50 kilowatt ICE increase requires serious revised mapping, fuel flow systems, even, I would argue, even potentially some combustion chamber work on their design, right? So saying that we want more ICE power and actually having compliant power units on track in 2027 are two kind of different things. It wouldn't shock me if the timeline slips from this. I don't know. I hope not. Because I feel like at some point they got to do something. So, Grace.
Or at least have the illusion of doing something.
Yeah, or as we've said in the last few podcasts, or at least have the element of the illusion of doing something. So
push your food around so it looks like you ate it. Yeah. Exactly.
MBS is coming. Look busy.
Exactly.
So if the 2027 hardware changes arrived as described, Grace, does that advantage teams and manufacturers who already lean on ICE performance, and does that shift the competitive order? You know that some of the teams are rumored to rely a little bit more on the ICE, like Red Bull, Audi, maybe Honda, Red Bull, Honda. Does that favor them or give anyone a competitive advantage. I'd like to think that Mercedes will figure that out before 2027.
I mean, that's the other thing too, right? It's not like any of these people. Of course, I don't know about where you work, but where I work, when you kind of hear the whispers, right, or somebody puts out some new interest, you go, "Hey, Todd, do you think by the end of the day, maybe just pull up some articles on that?" Right, like, so any sort of rumory kind of things you hear.
Like, Joe, Jamie, pull that up.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like, you don't wait until the rules are official and handed to you in a binder to go, oh, I guess we build the car now, right? Like, you're always thinking of these things. You're always asking people, and you're always sort of like, so, what have you heard? Oh, let's have something cappuccino in the Red Bull, motorhome and see what we can find out, right? Like, so nobody just stands there and waits for the official ruling to happen. So I would think that all the teams are always looking at all these angles and thinking about all the different things that could happen. But I also just think a lot of this is just narrative management. It's just whose narrative they're managing, and that why you can't. It's like you said, right? Like it's just an idea. Like it's not signed. It's just maybe it's a concept. Well, maybe that's what we'll do. Well, that's great. It's not worth anything. So I think they feel like they have to do something. I feel like all of this is just pushing your food around on the plate so you don't look bad at your friend's house, right? Because you didn't like the mom's meatloaf or something, right? I don't know.
We all dodge around the issue, and I think we know.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Yeah, we do. But you're right. So, Grace, the revenue numbers are strong despite the on-track criticism. At what point does the disconnect between commercial success and product satisfaction become a long-term brand risk rather than a short-term management problem?
Never. Because they will they will keep pumping out Drive to Survives, and new people will continue to join, and there will just be replacement. And that you will have interacts.
They're going to have churn rate amongst the new fans.
Correct. It'll be at replacement. It'll be fine. And then you'll have the interacts like you and I who complain and moan and yet keep watching. So, fine. You know what I mean? Like, I think that it'll be fine, and they know that. But, of course, this is what happens by Drive. So you sold people on Drive to Survive, and then when they actually watch the season, they're like, oh, this is it? Yeah, this is it. And, I mean, we talked about that, like, right after, like the first season, like, again, I love watching sports movies are great. Watching a whole season of a sport, very different. So, very different. Now, wouldn't you love to see their net promoter score, net transaction score, and net relationship score? The NPS, NTS would be interesting to see. They'd never share that with you, but it'd be very interesting to see, because I maintain they're going through some churn right now, and have been for the last season or two, and you wouldn't know. Is it enough churn? No, and. I mean, I think, Formula One, there's some part of Formula One that's like baseball, right? Like, I'm doing something else. Like, I watch the first lap. I stick my head in the middle. I'm cleaning the house, right? Or I'm mowing the lawn, whatever. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily something you sit down for 2 hours and you watch all of it. Yeah, right. And so I think that's just the way it is. And other sports are that way too. And people will find that out. But I think there's enough people that'll be into it, that'll keep watching it. And as Dominicali said, we're selling out races, so who the hell cares? Yeah. That's right. We're selling out races. Right. Who the hell cares? Right. So fine. People are watching it on TV. They're making their revenue, their television revenue money. Who cares? They just have to do enough to move the meatloaf around on the plate so it looks like you ate something. Yeah. They have to pretend to care. They do not. Right. They're making their money. So, should Liberty Media be more interventionist in the regulatory process, given that the condition of the on-track product is ultimately their asset? Or is staying out of the technical governance the right commercial discipline? And sure, look, the regulations, that's the FIA. They have the call on that. But Liberty can put a tremendous amount of pressure on those efforts. And I think they already have. I think they were doing it in the Jean Todt era. I think they're doing it now. You remember even when Ross Braun and Pat Simmons
got together when Liberty took over, and they were going to design the new cars, and they were going to do, the new regulations and all that stuff. And the FIA, Jean Todt over there, just, twiddling his thumbs. And I kept asking, that is the FIA's job. You would never have seen that when Max Mosley was there. You would never seen that sort of hands-off approach and let F1 chart their course. But he did. And so I feel like when MBS came in, he initially came in like a bull in a china shop. Oh, yeah, there's a new sheriff in town. I'm going to be more like Max, and I'm calling the shots here and blah, blah, blah. And out of nowhere, he kind of quietly got set in a corner a little bit. And that had to come from the teams and from Liberty, I would suspect. He stuck his foot in his mouth a few times regarding women and other things, and Susie Wolf and all that crap. But I think it's very interesting to see if Liberty puts any pressure on it, or if we get a whiff of it. But do you think they should be a little more interventionist?
Well, I think we won't get a whiff of it. I do think that's an important part of it, right? Like, what they do behind closed doors is fine. But I think out front where we can all see it, they should be hands off. Liberty Media should go, hey, we're just the commercial rights. The FIA makes the regulations. We don't interfere with the regulations, because that's then what makes it a sport, right? That's the balance between sports and entertainment. If Liberty Media sticks their foot in it too much, then where's that line that this is a sport with rules and not just something we're all just watching for the funsies, right? So now, behind the scenes, of course they are. This is their money. They've spent it. Of course they're leaning on them, but it should not look like that publicly. Publicly, it should only look like the FIA is making the rules, because otherwise this is not a sport.
Yeah, agreed. And then the rest of us, after it's all over, we're going to sit around going, what does it all mean, Van?
Nobody knows. But,
knows.
I think they just sold people on something that Formula One was never going to be. And now you're trying to make Formula One something that it never was. And guess what?
Exactly.
That's not working.
Yeah, it's not working. I mean,
and you could sell it better.
This is some shock. I mean, honestly, I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been watching it for decades, but I had pretty strong opinions back in 2012 and 2013 before they made these changes. And then they changed the cars for the ground effects. Well, that was short-lived. And that was the whole Ross Braun, Pat Simmons deal, the ground effects cars. And it was going to revolutionize it, cut down dirty air and all that. Yeah, they did a season or two and then gone. And then they do this. And this is a shell of the series that it was. It just is. It just is. And nobody will say the quiet thing out loud. I will. But it isn't right. It's not right. And they know that unequivocally, because they're immediately calling emergency meetings, trying to change it, trying to tweak it, trying to tweak 2027. And finally, MBS threw the towel and said, screw it. We're going back to V8s. And the only reason he picked 2030 is because he can't mandate it in 2031. He was hoping people could get on, and so he probably gave the teams a little runway here, about 3 or 4 years, 3 years effectively to get on board. But it's a mess. The whole thing is a mess.
I don't think they actually care. I think they just have to do something.
They have to do something, or at least to be seen to be doing something.
Correct.
Yeah,
it was just we're just gonna have a nice meal in France.
Right. Right.
I mean, this is you're stuck with these rules. This isn't something that you can just change overnight, right? So
I know. Yeah. No, it's so true.
And right. Oh, you're right. Nobody saw this coming. Everybody saw this coming.
Yeah. Everybody saw this coming.
So cool.
All right. Well, let's it's that time. We got to do some Albin's Cats, because that's fun. Yeah. Grace, what kind of Albin's Cats you got for us?
All right. So first, I would like to start out with a you know how I love all the unbox videos, and even though there's a lot of them, and sometimes you're just like, what did I just waste some part of my life watching?
Yeah.
I do consistently think Williams puts out really good ones, and some of it is just because of the personalities involved, right? And so it works really well. So I'd like to give a little shout out to the recent one that Williams did for Miami. And this was with Alex Albon and David Coulthard. So first of all, they're driving around Miami in a convertible, which is hilarious because, again, I think as we all know, like, you always know, if you ever go to Hawaii, you know who the tourists are because they're the ones in the convertibles. It's hot.
Yeah.
Nobody drives convertibles, right? Like, in Miami, you drive a convertible down Ocean Drive because you're driving slow because you want people to see you. Nobody's driving around in convertibles. It's hot. It's Florida. But anyway, so I love that they're in this, like, old car, right? And they just are like, wow, it's really hot. Yeah, it's Florida. It's really hot. But then they go, one of the stops they make, they go to where the Marlins play, to their ballpark. And so they're like, Alex is showing off his like batting skills and he's pretty good at it. And David Coulthard decides, well, I'm going to go field your balls. So he's like out in the outfield. And so meanwhile, the main frame is like on Alex Albon and whoever he's talking to. And you just see David Coulthard out in the outfield fielding balls like he's Alex Albon's dad at a softball game or something. Like, like it was just great.
Yeah.
And right on, because I'm sure DC just thought, oh, I'll get that ball. Oh, shoot, it's hard out. Like, this is far, right? Because they even talk about how much like bigger a baseball diamond is than what it looks like on TV, right? It doesn't look very big, but it's a big area. So I enjoyed poor DC, the left fielder, trying his best. And then he like throws the ball and it does one of these, like what you always fear when you're doing first pitch, right? It like just goes right down and it doesn't go very far at all. And poor DC, he needed some pitching. Clearly baseball was never something he played, unlike Alex. Yeah, so I enjoyed it. So nice job, DC. I appreciate it. And he was very good humored about it. So
yeah.
Then
I don't know who does their social these days. I wonder if Stephen English, I think he still is at Williams. He used to be in the media and press. A nice guy, real nice guy. I think maybe he's in some racing side of it. Anyway, neither here nor there. All right, go ahead. Next.
So I thought, so give it a watch. It was enjoyable. Next, MotoGP. So they were in Le Mans this weekend, and I'm going to make this, crossover because Isaac Hadjar was the flag waver at the end, even though they did not say his name, but he was there. So Isaac Hadjar was at the race. I mean, he's French. I was hoping that there would be like more like of we'd see more bromance between him and Quartararo since they're friends. But it was nice. He did the tour of all the different tracks, but we had all three Aprilias get the podium in the race, so that was pretty great. That's the first time that's happened, maybe ever, but in a long time. So and Martine's back, and that was great. Not so great for Marc Marquez, but
not good. No. I saw that. I didn't see it. I know he broke his ankle, right?
He broke his foot. He broke the pinky toe, the fifth metacarpal.
Okay.
Because of Marc Marquez, I'm learning more about the human body. I'm like, why is that? Okay.
That's so wrong. But yes, you're right.
I don't know. Do you know? I mean, nobody knows what these things are until you break it. You're like, oh yeah, that's my seventh vertebrae. Yeah. I know
to
things.
Mark, you know things because he's broken just about
everything. Yes.
So I thought I saw that he had two surgeries back to back.
He did. So he had a screw. Okay. So first of all, this story is ridiculous because you're just like, as a human, you're like, because he's just nonchalantly delivering this information. So he was always planning to have surgery because one of the 700 screws in his shoulder has come loose and is rubbing up against the radial nerve. And so he was going to go get surgery. But then when he broke the outside of his foot, they were like, well, just come in and we'll do all of it. So they removed the screw out of his shoulder and fixed his foot. Gotcha. But it was just the idea that he's like, but that's what caused the accident was because when he went, the screw like slid into his radial nerve and then he can't use his arm and over he went. And it was a pretty bad high side. It was just like, which we don't have a lot of anymore, thankfully.
Yeah,
but
we don't. Yeah.
It was pretty rough. And I mean, I guess the fact that he only broke his little toe, but that's why. So he was going to be out for Catalunya, but now he'll be out for the next two races instead of just one, because while you're there, just fix all the ailments I have in my body as Marc Marquez, and he'll still be great. It'll be fine. But so keep on watching. Aprilia's doing great. So we had Martine and Bez and Ayaguro, first not first, but in a long time that we had a Japanese rider not on a Japanese bike, legitimately on the podium. I think a lot of times it rained and that's why they're on the podium. So it was great that I agree is really coming on strong this season, and that's good to see. And then my final story, because how can I let this go without another update to the GP to TP news? Because this is the greatest story that we're going to have to talk about for the next 2 years. So I hope you people are all ready. So last week in Miami, I had mentioned that at GP that there's been a little bit of controversy, right, with him going to McLaren and Red Bull saying when he's going to, Red Bull's going, oh, he'll go in 2028, and McLaren said, no, later than 2028. Like, again, it's this wordsmithing that I enjoy so much. So apparently they had a little meeting. So we had Mekis and Brown, and then Oliver Mislav, who is the Red Bull parent boss dude, high up muckety muck, right? How's that? Yo-yo racing stuff. So the three of them get together and we're friends now. We've cleared the air. We just want to be respectable towards each other. We don't want this to become some sort of war of words that we have to deal with over GP. I love this. This is totally not what's going to happen. I mean, I don't want this to be a distraction to McLaren, but I love that this is just like, yeah, we're going to be fine. They're not going to be fine. They're going to continue to share. Oh, did I accidentally say he was going to be the team principal of your team? Oh, my mistake. This is going to just keep happening. And I enjoy, because this again, I think is the fun of Formula One that, it is. Because it's not like McLaren came out and said, oh, Red Bull, you have nothing but a brain drain. But they definitely implied it by just saying, well, he's joining these 7 other people that are at our team that came from your team. They didn't have to say it, right? It's just worded in it's such Ron Dennis. I love that it's just worded in a way that is beautiful. And it's just I never said that. Did I say that you had a brain drain at Red Bull? Right. I didn't. I just wrote a statement. Right. These people all worked at your team and now they are on my team. It's just a statement. Who am I? It's just writing things.
It's Zach-isms. They're great.
I love it. So I love that we still have until no later than 2028 to continue the saga of GP to TP. Right. So watch this space, because I'm sure this is going to continue at least for another year of where he's going to go. It's great.
Right. It is great. All right. Well, that's it for this. I'll leave you with the through line for this podcast, shall I?
Sure.
Right. So the thread running through all of these stories in my mind is kind of this. The sport's never been more commercially confident and never been less certain about what its actual product is. And I find that really interesting. The gap between the balance sheet and the regulation room is the defining tension of 2026. And I think it will be. And it's not going to resolve itself very quickly. And I think that's kind of the through line of all of the elements. We'll see what happens, but it's hard to know. But anyway, all right. Well, that does it for this podcast. That's what we think about the news. You let us know what you think and share your opinion and ideas. You can do that at thepartforme.com. If you like the podcast, give us a good rating on your favorite podcast player. Share it. Send it to friends, family, strangers. If you watch the podcast on YouTube, hit all the buttons, the like, the bell, the, everything, share, do all the stuff that you do. And if you're a Patreon supporter, we are grateful, because we could not and would not do this podcast without our Patreon supporters. And if you are one, you know this. And if you're not one, here's the scoop. If you're a Patreon supporter, you can get our audio podcast and video podcast on there commercial free, totally no commercials at all. So I post those at the same time without commercials. So huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. And then we will be back, I believe, Grace, it's next weekend, isn't it? Or is it the 24th? It's the 24th, isn't it?
All right. Well.
Yeah. Is that it? That's it. It's the 24th. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so we'll be back next weekend to talk about news and other things. And when we come back. So until that time, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camber, saying so long, Grace.
See you next week.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. It's not what I feel I've got to prove at all. I don't really want to prove anything. I started as an amateur with no idea or no intention of becoming world champion. I was curious to find out what it was like to drive a car fast, to drive on a certain circuit, to drive a certain type of car.